If we think it's just about solving our childhood traumas or our unfinished childhood business, then there's an end. It's like I've only given myself permission to play with this because I need to heal myself from the thing. And as soon as I'm healed, I'll just like vanilla sex, and that'll be enough for me.
Welcome to Bear Lifestyle, the podcast where we talk about taboo topics to make them normal and acceptable. I'm your host, Simona Spark, and I am so excited that you are here. We are about to get naked by stripping away insecurities, judgments, and all kinds of limitations to reveal the essence of who we really are Bear. Bold, authentic, radical, and fully expressed. Let's begin. I like to start with celebration. I'm celebrating myself. I'm celebrating you and everyone who listens and watches. So cheers, cheers, cheers to everyone.
Yes, water is a very good choice. I was always astonished that water existed well before the water on this planet existed before this planet existed. So that's amazing.
Amazing. It's amazing. And you are amazing. And I just want to start off with thanking you for waking up so early to be here with us today and for being here. I can't wait to dive with you into some juicy, juicy topics. So, for everyone who listen and watch this, make sure that you open the show notes. I put there all the links where you could find this beautiful woman that I have so many questions. So let's just start with tell us about your free download because very few guests are coming on our podcast and actually coming with a gift, which may I just say that that's mean that you've been raised well when you walk in somebody's house for the first time, bring something.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty special gift. It's very unique, actually. And it's going to make more sense after our conversation, but let's introduce it now so that you know why you're going to want to listen to this conversation.
There you go.
Called the Celeb Swoon Technique. And this is a little free mini course to help you start to unpack your unique erotic narrative. Because even though sex positive communities and BDSM communities have all of these wonderful forms to fill in and seem to be really aware of what it is that they're into or can explore the options of what they can explore, what is not being talked about is the psychological process that actually makes that hot for us. And this little mini course is a way to help you become conscious of your unconscious narrative so that you can get more out of your date nights.
I love it. I'm all about accessing our untapped potential. And the whole idea of the bear experience that I created a couple of years ago was to, when we peel out all the judgment, the limitations, the beliefs, that stereotypes and all things, what is it that it's left? It's our own unique essence. And that's what I'm going to work to find out and help everyone to find their unique essence. So thank you so much for your gift. I'm eager to watch that course myself. So I am just very curious. How did you end up in this line of work? If you don't mind giving us a little bit of your background.
Okay, so for people who don't know, I am a sexual fantasy expert. I teach the sexperts, some of the world's most leading sexperts, how to understand and engage sexual fantasies. Because there's an awful lot more to them than first meets the eye. They are so rich. And when we understand them, we can create much more powerful experiences. So I have a background. I've been a sex geek for 30 years. I just needed to understand how sex works. It seems to be my soul mission on the planet, right? I just needed to work out what is this crazy thing.
Soul sister. Yes, yes. This crazy, unlimited thing, right?
Yeah, it is
Mhm.
amazing and it's so multidimensional, so much more to it than procreation. Um, And on that journey of discovery, self-discovery and education and all of the different ways in which I have studied sex. I spent 12 years as a sex worker and a professional dominatrix in Sydney, Australia, with my own venue set up with multi-rooms for different experiences. And there's nothing that teaches you more about how the erotic psyche works than being paid to become the sexual fantasy of thousands of people, right?
Oh my goodness.
So,
Erotic psyche. That's
yeah.
what I extract from there. Can we dive into that a little bit more?
So when somebody would walk through the door, and this is really common too, even in the kink community, or when you go on a date with somebody and they're really sex positive and they're embracing their sexuality, and you ask them what it is that they're interested in exploring, and they will focus on the often the physical attributes of what they find somebody hot. You know, I like this type, this is my type
Right.
of person. They will focus on the kinds of sex acts or kink acts that they really like to do, and the limits around that, and a little bit about the sort of flavor with which that is delivered.
Mhm.
But they do not know to be focused on all of this unconscious erotic narrative that's going on. It's because they're just not aware of it. So what I did in the Divinery is I developed an entire system of being able to sit people down on my red velvet couch and have a little tea ceremony with me. And I would ask them all sorts of questions about their sexual fantasies, their past peak experiences, and the way they wish their kink or their sex was being lived out. And I would listen to the fantasy version of their ideal, right? And I would work out what the underlying narrative is underneath that, because fantasies are not realistic.
I think, okay, I have to interject in here because I said I no longer live in a fantasy world. Whatever I'm dreaming about desire, I'm looking at it as a desire. I want to bring it into reality. But for myself and for my clients, I really like to go deep into dissecting that fantasy, like how that got to be formed. Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, so I like to bring it as like it's very real because it's been born from something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you see what I'm saying? Like, where is that coming from? There is so many underneath layers before we even have that thought and desire, right? Regardless
Mm-hmm.
if it's coming from some trauma or whatever, because it doesn't necessarily work just with trauma. I said it before, like just have no trauma and just want to explore. Let's go for it, right? It's not all
Mm-hmm.
about healing. So, like, I'm up
Mm.
for good debate. I feel that fantasies are very real.
So fantasies are make-believe stories, but the effect they have on our bodies, our minds, and our hearts is very real. But people would have all sorts of fantasies that are unrealistic. Like, you can't actually have the whole football team to have a gangbang with you at the Glory Hole every Tuesday night. It's just, you need to find another way to tap into that same storyline, understand the psychology underneath it, and create a real life experience that
Right.
creates the same effect.
So let me see if I got that right. So what you do is whatever the client present, this is what I want, and you recognize that, yeah, we can have sex on March, but let's figure out what is it that you actually need so you could receive that need here on Earth.
So all desires are symbolic, all of them.
Mm.
Not just sex ones, all they're symbolic,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
this part of your brain, this part of your psyche speaks in symbols. So if you try and take it literally, I learned this very soon. If a client came to me and they thought that they would get their desire fulfilled by being with somebody who has blonde hair and big boobs and is happy to do spank them over, put them over her lap and spank them, and then all of their desires would be met, because that's and to do it with a strict voice, which is a little bit of an auntie, right? And then that's all they're aware of, and they think, okay, I'm going to be fulfilled, and they've lived that fantasy over and over and over again in their mind's eye. And me as a sex worker, I'm never going to be the exact thing that's in their fantasy, because their fantasy is the concentrated form of everything that they need in order to be able to get to where they're going. So what I need to do is listen to that fantasy and see, why does that work? Let's not think about it as childhood trauma. Let's not think about it as your unfinished childhood business. Let's
Mm-hmm.
think of it as a story that has
Mm-hmm.
taken you from one place to another. And this is what my brand new theory that is groundbreaking all around the world is. I'm offering an entirely new way of understanding what sexual fantasies are and how to tap into them. Which is, being eaten up by sexologists and therapists and all of the people in the know, like, yes, this rings true. This is true. This is the missing piece. Because everybody was trying to work out, they're trying to reduce sexual fantasies to what happened in your childhood and why do you need this
Yeah.
now? Or they're trying to reduce it to, oh, it's perfectly healthy. Everybody has fantasies. Don't judge them. But then if you don't understand the detail in them, you can't harness the power in them, right? So
Mm.
just not judging them is not enough. Understanding how they work gives you the tools and the power to really become the erotic artist, somebody who can bring
I
out
love
the
it.
deep things inside of them. So what I discovered with my clients is they kept coming in and they kept thinking they understood, they knew what they wanted, and they had a conscious level of what they wanted. But underneath the surface, they had even more desires. They didn't understand how they were working. And I
Yeah.
kept watching and playing and experimenting and seeing what was going on until I noticed the pattern and I cracked the code. I was like, wow, that's what sexual fantasies are. Sexual fantasies are stories. All stories transform your consciousness. You take you on a journey. You watch a movie and you will go on a high with the lows with the characters that are there. You might even get goosebumps. You get physical responses. You might squeal if it's a horror movie. Like you might, you feel all of the emotions. You feel it, and it takes you somewhere, and you're changed by the end, even though it was just entertainment, right? It's
Right.
you're
Right.
changed. But these are very specific stories. Sexual fantasies are stories that are designed by our own minds, and no one knows us better than our own minds, right? To overcome our fear of our ego's vulnerability, our ego's fear of vulnerability, so that
Mm.
we can lose ourselves in the moment. So
Mm.
these stories are always about what our normal, healthy, guarded egos are afraid of, and that includes that fear, and it transforms it in some way so that we can find the safety and the permission to just go into pure experiencing in the moment, where we can just let all of our guards down. We can find intimacy and passion and connection and surrender into, even if you're dominant, you still need to surrender into the
Yeah.
moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, first of all, I could listen to you forever and ever and ever. Your voice is so, so spectacular. So seductive. So that's number one. Very important, everybody. If you didn't pay attention to her voice. I absolutely love how you present the whole fantasy game. I get it. I understand it. Like my body understand it, right? So not only creating the safe space when a person gets to say what they want, but having a facilitator that actually says that's what you know that you want, but there is so much more that you don't know because you don't know what you don't know. But I'm here to
Yes.
help you with the right questions and with my expertise to bring what you don't know and to what is just revealed to you from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get
Yes.
to, I want to say we get to the bottom of this, but that could go in so many different directions.
Yes, you're onto it. I can see your experience. Fantastic. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly that. We help people become conscious of the things that are unconscious in their narratives. And instead of ruining the fantasy, because people are a little bit afraid, they think if I
Mhm.
analyze it, I'll see that, it's like pulling the curtain back and seeing how the magic works. It won't be wonderful anymore. But actually the opposite happens. It's
Yes.
like becoming an artist. you have to go and learn the skills to be an artist. You have to learn how to make 3D pictures, not just 2D pictures. You need to understand how color works. You need to be able to
The
create
shadows.
tone and texture and shadow and all of the things, right?
Yeah,
And that's technical skill. But once you have those skills, you can lose yourself in the inspiration and create art that you didn't even know what's going to be the you're as surprised as everyone else at the end result. You're just letting yourself go in the flow, using those technical skills to bring it to life.
that's
Mm,
the presence
mm,
braided with the surrender, right? Into a safe, a vulnerable space. This is not analyzing and dissecting piece by piece. This is just, we are just gonna dive deep and we're gonna expand, because with every piece that we bring it to the light, every piece
mm.
that we bring it into knowing and into the conscious, it's actually just going to expand your experience. It's just going to make it better, right?
That's going to make it absolutely better. And that people who've been playing actively in sex positive communities, experts in the field would come to me for a session, and they thought they knew it all. They thought
Yeah,
that they were complete. They've done it all. They've been doing it for 30 years.
yeah,
They're completely and then but nobody had actually had somebody work out the key ingredients of their narrative that included their poisons and their antidotes, the right paradox friction moments, and the right emotional aphrodisiacs to go with it, and just the right details to make the story work, and then to create a real life experience around that. And when they did, it shocked the pants off them. Like
right,
it
right.
shocked the pants off them, because they would say, I didn't even know I could feel this way. I've been playing
Yeah,
for this for that long. This is the feeling that I've been searching for my whole life. And I didn't know that it was possible to feel this way, because most people have never been able to follow their own internal map all the way to the end of where it goes, because they weren't aware of what their map was.
yeah,
So that when you follow the map all the way to the end, you get to experience the fuller possibility of erotic states of consciousness. You
yeah.
get to be transformed deeper and lose yourself so deep. Sometimes it's a spiritual experience. You feel connected with everything that is. Like you have oneness
I,
experiences. And
I make the statement in one conversation saying that BDSM practices, for me and other people that I work with at this
mm,
point, it's such a spiritual experience,
mm,
because
yes.
to what you said earlier, it feels like as deeper you go, not only that, the more that you get to experience and to taste and to be in that delicious, just sometimes it feels like there are no words to describe the experience, right? But the deeper you go, it feels like the more is there to explore, as deeper as you could go next time. And then
Mm,
like in a personal development space, when they say it's like climbing the mountain, and the higher you go, the horizon is bigger, and you go higher and you see even more. In this space, it feels like the other way. I get to go deeper to
mm,
to the potential. And then when I think I got it and I'm coming out of that session like blown away, it's actually, I get to see more, and I want to go
hmm.
more deeper, right?
That's the one.
That's the
Yeah.
one. Mm,
Yeah, it's definitely that. Deeper and deeper. And you've got an internal map and a compass that shows you the way when you know how to hear it. And that these are skills that are not being taught at the moment. So
yeah.
what makes my theory different is that I'm exploring how consciousness works and how stories affect consciousness. Embodied stories affect consciousness. So
Mhm.
sexual fantasies might be unrealistic, but the narrative that they are telling us is absolutely real, and the play that we can have together can be fully present, deeply and flow together, and can take us somewhere really, really powerful. But I'm looking at how do we have ego dissolution experiences? So
Mm,
ego dissolution experiences, if there's an entire movement in amongst therapists at the moment to introduce the benefits, and they're understanding the benefits of psychedelic assisted therapy,
mhm. Yeah.
because you can move past your ego and to a bigger sense of self, and you can have so much more compassion for yourself, and you can access parts of yourself you normally wouldn't be allowed to, can't see because your ego's in the way. And there's a lot of deep benefits from that. But there's more than just psychedelics. These oneness states are right across cultures, right across time, right across different kinds of religions. This is the thing that we call spiritual. And people in the BDSM community at this point pipe and go, yeah, I already know that because I've been to subspace a billion times. And I'm like, there's more. There's more, all right? There's more.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
I've been having experience with someone like in a dom sub dynamic, right? Someone that
Mm,
is playing in that field for decades, right? And I was very impressed. I was like, oh man, I'm like, I have things to learn. But in the same time, is it's kind of getting to the point that doesn't even matter if two people are there and present with each other,
mm,
whatever the scene is, whatever the setting is, right? You got it to a point where it's actually is just not only exchange of power, but it's an exchange of information, like energetic level, where
mm,
we completed a scene and he was like, you blown my mind. I can
mm.
believe. And I'm like, wait, what? I teach you something? But I think what I learned in that moment is how open you are to experiences because you are going deep with another human or humans, depends what the setting is, right? So it's not one way, it's not unilateral. It's like everybody involved. It's a co-creation.
Oh, yes, it
All the
absolutely is.
energies
Yeah.
and we coming out of it,
Mm,
and then we look at like who do we become after that experience? Because it's changing you. It leaves a print on you. I don't care what the
mm,
people say, right? Like, oh, I've been doing this for so many years. Like, yeah, but every experience that you've been doing changed you one way or another. And when and if, like I personally, with talking about psychedelics, I like playing with the gummies every now and then,
I
right?
think that's an American thing.
I think I just because I live in LA for a few years, but to say that I don't have a lot of experience with psychedelics, that's not, and then I have zero expertise. It's
Mm,
just my own experience, right?
mm,
For me, it's something that I could achieve with a good meditation and breathing techniques to get myself
mm,
present and into my body before I walk into
mm.
the scene. But if I get a gum, it's just get me there faster. But
Right.
the purpose is the same that you were saying. It's like there is no judgment and talking and whatever. My ego is like to sleep. I'm here.
Yes.
I'm a full
Yes.
experience.
You,
And I'm good friend with ego. My ego is my friend, right? I make sure that it's
mine too.
it and
Mine
taken
too.
care of, right? But in
Mm.
this situation, it's like, okay, you're gonna just go ahead, take a sleep because I'm doing this thing.
Yeah, yeah, you're onto it. I can tell. This is the difference is that we don't. It doesn't have to be psychedelics. You can get there through all sorts of different things, and there's different layers and different levels of ego dissolution experience. Right? You can experience a moment of ego resistance and ego dissolution just a little bit. Just when you are sitting in a cafe and you see somebody really cute and they're sitting over there, and your ego goes, don't let them know that you like them because that makes you vulnerable. Don't look at them. Don't. And your desire, which is a different organ of the psyche, will be going, don't worry about it. Take all of the risks. Go and
Yum,
ask them
yum,
out.
yum. But that's what I'm talking about, is that internal conversation between
Mm,
my desire, with my psyche, with my trauma, with my I don't know, interested, with my ego, like all those little parts, like it's a
mm.
freaking board meeting,
Yes,
all having
it
a
is.
conversation. And it's like when I make a decision of like who's in charge of this meeting and what are
Mm,
the tools, the practices that I need to ensure that that part of me is in charge and that part of me is leading this experience, right?
yes.
So whatever
Yes.
you need, you might need to take a nap, you might need to get a gummy or do a breathing
Mm.
technique, or you have a practice with your partner or with your partners, whatever it is. But that's what we are trying to doing here. This is what I try to do in my coaching space, is to help
Mm.
clients to navigate those things and pick and choose the tools that works for them for
Mm.
different scenarios and for different circumstances, because and and
Mm.
allows those tools to be different from experience to experience,
Yes. Yeah,
right?
yeah, it has
Because
to be. Yeah.
different experience, different people, different days, different times, we need
Mm.
different things. So,
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of it, because it's never ending.
It is never ending.
So
It
many options.
never ends. If we think it's just about solving our childhood traumas or our unfinished childhood business, then there's an end. It's like I've only given myself permission to play with this because I need to heal myself from the thing. And as soon as I'm healed, I'll just like vanilla sex and that'll be enough for me. Like, which is not true. It's not.
I don't think there ever been someone that experienced those and that says, I'm just gonna go back to vanilla. I mean, I want to know that person.
Yeah, but what is really radical about my system, which I called the divinery method, because my play space in Sydney was called the divinery, because my name is Artemisia Divine, and my clients named it the divinery because that they felt as though they were discovering themselves when they came in there. They just went in there because they had a particular thing they wanted to experience and came out knowing themselves on a whole different level. But the in the divinery method, I teach people exactly what you were talking about before. How do you actually have an embodied present relationship with these different organs of the psyche and learn how to follow them as an internal compass and then follow the map within your sexual fantasies. But you don't do it as like we're just going to do a step by step. We're going to do this, 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 this. It's like these are just tools that you now play with to create spontaneously. And it's bringing all of this out of your head into full presence and flow and connection together.
Yeah.
It just becomes so much more powerful when you understand the different elements of story. So just any story, not just sexy stories, have to, if you're a writer, you need to understand how stories work.
Mhm.
You know, the audience just goes along and go, oh, that was fun, and has no idea how much artistry went into making that
Yeah.
story, right? The
Yeah.
story has to include plot, character arcs, protagonists, antagonists, has to include all of the things, obstacles to overcome. Every single story is desire driven. It is like, somebody, there's a whole bunch of people in the forest and they're lost and they're fighting over a map, and that's the opening scene of the story, right? Their desire is to get out of the forest safely and they're lost. And everything that happens leads up to these characters fighting over the map, just having obstacles in the way, in
Yeah.
encountering wild animals and cliffs and things to try and get out. So they need obstacles to transform and overcome, and they change as they go along. The unconscious narrative of the story is that that they need to learn how to cooperate together to survive. But that's
Mhm.
never stated, obviously, on the surface. We just watch them fight over the power and who's going to be the leader and say stupid things and make
Right.
mistakes and grow as people. And we transform by watching them. We change. We're also exploring this theme of how are we personally going to relate to, our individuality versus working together as a team. And we're
Mhm.
watching how each of the characters are doing it badly or really well, and we're learning from that. But none of that's conscious. We just come out of the movie going, that was amazing. And the climax, of course, was some incredible thing that forced them all to work together so that they could either survive or not, depending if it's a tragedy or
Right, right,
whatever.
right. Did it scare you? Did it inspire you? Right, right.
Yes.
Hmm.
So when you understand how the sexual fantasy narrative works, is you can pull those pieces together and you can create a really deeply satisfying climax that brings all of the unconscious mechanisms together to a deeply satisfying conclusion. And in that point, that that is when people will drop into deeper states than that they'd ever experienced before. So this is why it's really important to think of this. And the thing that I said, I will circle back. The thing that I was saying about how this theory is really, really radical is because even if you had the perfect society and your childhood was perfect and nothing ever went wrong, there would still be lots and lots of people with big kinks and all sorts of taboo turn-ons and fantasies, because this is how our normal natural egos need to face their fear of vulnerability and let go. We need this story in order to be able to change states of consciousness. That's how it is. A normal, healthy ego with nothing wrong with it is the part of us that creates our sense of self. It guards our self-identity, our self-worth, our social status. And that's a healthy, good, functioning ego. But a healthy, good, functioning ego also will resist any form of vulnerability, because that's its job as the organ of the psyche. It says all forms of vulnerability are dangerous. Let's not do that. No way, don't do it. That'll be too embarrassing. Don't do that. You might risk rejection. Don't do that. You know, people might think that you're not cool anymore if you just let loose in that way, right? They won't like you anymore if they see you flapping your flappy bits. Like it's so then with this ego here defending itself, that's like a castle wall, right? And it's protecting this sense of I am this and not that. But you can't connect with anyone while you're being an I. You have to let those castle walls down. So you have to walk down that bridge. And on the bridge are 3 guards saying, I'm not going to let you past unless you can convince me that you're going to be safe without your ego. And that guard, the first guard is the guard of social status. The second guard is the one of self-worth. The third is the one of self-identity. And so desire comes along and whispers into those guards' ears. It tells it a little story. And this is your sexual fantasy. It says, oh, you're afraid you're going to be rejected. You're going to be afraid that someone might abuse power if you become vulnerable. Okay, let's include your fear in the fantasy. I'll make that part of the story, but then I'll also include the antidote to that so that it transforms, so that by the end of the story, the exact opposite to what your ego feared happens. Like if you feared rejection, you're actually accepted. And it's just totally built in to the story structure. And when I understand how each person's ego becomes safe by listening to their story, I can create 1 billion different stories using those ingredients. I can just play and play and play. Right?
Boom. That makes so much sense. When I wrote my story and I wrote my memoir, and was like very heavy to put my story out there because it was a lot of heavy stuff in it, right? 3 years ago now, yes. I needed to see it, right? So what I did, I break it in pieces, and I have like flashcards on the wall. Because I'm an avid reader, right? So I read hundreds of books. So I'm like, I know, how do I put this together? What's the experience of a reader? So is what you're saying, right? It's like, where do I walk into my story, into my life story? Who are the characters? Who am I talking? Like, where do I open the story? Where I close it? So it was kind of that, right? But for me, because I'm visual and I like to experience, it's not enough for me to understand. I need to embody that information, right? I want to see it and I want to walk through it. and that's how that influenced me, and that's what that led me. So I love the way that you explain and disconstruct this fantasy world, because it's such a, okay, so this is what I hear, right? Because I could only understand it from my own way. it's a teamwork. I'm working with all these parts. And I know that ego has a very bad rap, especially in a Western culture, but I was born, raised in Romania, so I'm translating everything. English is my second language. And ego,
Mm,
it's a Latin word, right? And it's like it's I, it's self. So why
mm.
am I still putting all this negativity on myself,
We
right?
need an ego. We can't even walk around the world and
Like
interact without
we
an
won't
ego.
exist, right?
Right?
So can we just take the ego and say, no, actually, you have a seat on an
Mm.
executive seat on the table.
Yes,
I won't
yes,
be
I'm
here
so with
without
you.
you. Like, who's keeping me on check?
Hmm. It protects us. It gives us and protects our sense of self. We can't even set a boundary without a sense of self. But to
Yes,
have great sex, you have to lose yourself in the moment.
you have to take your gummy, whatever it is.
Or
uh,
follow your narrative and play.
Whatever your practice is, to just be like surrender into the role, into the scene, into whatever the setting might be, and be present and open. Well, you can be present and open without being vulnerable, right? You can experience transformation or
Mm.
mind-blowing pleasure without vulnerability, right? And
And
vulnerability,
so many coaches though will teach you that you have to be present and vulnerable to start with. And yet, how do you do that? Using breath and all of those things. Sexual fantasies are the exact map that show you how to do that. So if you include that in the play, it helps you overcome layer after layer of resistance to being fully
and
present.
that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to say, because that's what we learn that we need to do. But then when you're there,
Mm,
only in that place you actually get to touch what vulnerability really is, because it's not
mm,
what we've been taught. The way that I just described it, you got into that surrender space, but again, in the right space with the right facilitator, where you come out of it and you say, holy mother, that's what vulnerability is. Like, oh goddamn, this
mm.
is what trust and surrender look like. Because it's for
It's
sure not what I read in the books.
it's incredible, isn't it? It's astonishing.
It's infinite,
It is absolutely infinite. That's the right word, infinite, and
infinite.
so full of awe and wonder. It's like this, the losing yourself is kind of like, being so tiny and small when you're standing on the beach and you're looking at the vast ocean and the starry sky, and you're thinking about the infinite space that never ends, and you feel so tiny and so insignificant that you lose yourself in the moment. You just lose yourself, and then you feel an unexplainable awe and wonder rise through your whole body as you feel connected to all of it. Like you start remembering, oh my goodness, no matter what my belief system is, there must have been a beginning before the earth existed, before the solar system existed, before even the universe existed. What happened before that? How many different things did I had to happen? How many butterfly wings had to flap just so for however thousands or billions of years, depending on your belief system, that had to happen so that I could be standing right here, right now, experiencing this and existing. Wow. And that opening to that profound state, that's the same thing that we access when we follow our own unique erotic narratives. We access this thing way beyond horny. Horny can get us there. Kinky desires can get us there, but that's not the point. The end point. The point is remembering, and this has happened to my clients all the time. They just came in because they liked big boobs. They didn't know this was going to happen. 2 hours later, they're all wow, I can't believe I didn't know I could feel this way. What even is this? It feels like I can see this is who I am before if such a thing exists as a soul, this is it. I'm being my soul right now. I'm
Yep.
being my higher self and my primal self at the same time. And it's all integrated. And this is the bigger sense of me. This is who I really am, who I always was. And
Well, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
that's where it leads to.
Oh my God,
Mhm.
so juicy. I feel it's been a while since I talked with somebody that I feel that we are doing the same thing, but in a different spaces.
Yeah.
Because we kind of like, do you ever had, I have this more and more lately, people saying like you just flip my beliefs. You
Yeah.
flip my thought process because it's like this knowledge of, oh, I need to heal my body and love my body, which is great. It's fantastic work. And to feel beautiful and sexy, and then I could have an amazing sexual experience. And I'm like, no, let's just have an amazing sexual experience, and then it's going to take care of you loving yourself and your body.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So you are doing the same work, but in a different space. And
Mm,
people are like, wait, what? And I'm like, this
mm,
this this is it. Like the bare experience, it's about this.
mm.
We have all those things, right? I'm using the acronyms, bold, authentic, radical, and express. And so much work. I done it. So I understand where people are coming from, like just getting to those points, like what do I need to know? What is the insecurity that I need to work on? What is the thing that I need to heal in order to be authentic and to order to this and this and this and that? And then I'm like, wait, because when in a safe space, having this fantasies, bringing into reality with the right partner, with the right facilitator, right? I actually got to see how freaking phenomenal I am and how beautiful I am and how wonderful my body is and what they could feel and how it's like, oh, there is nobody more beautiful than I am. And then like that space, like, oh, wait, it's the other way around.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. I love it. You do such a good job of explaining it. That's fantastic. I'm going to talk about this. My book is coming out next
You told me
year.
you have a book coming up. So do you have like a waiting list that you could give us a link so people could sign up for it? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. If they sign up to the celeb swoon technique at myfantasies.com, that will get them on my newsletter. You can also follow my Substack, which is free, which you'll get glimpses of my book. It's called The Spirituality of Smut, The Surprising Wisdom of Sexual Fantasies.
I
So
love it. And I would do you even one better, you dear listening, the ones that watch here. I launch a on-spot invitation, which I do a lot with my guests. Would you come back to our podcast?
I'd love to come back to your podcast.
So
Love
let's
to.
do this again when you launch the book, and then we're gonna make that like the main reason to meet, but we have so many other reasons to meet.
Deal. Deal. I love it.
All right, so I will try to let's wrap this up because I try to keep it as short as possible, which is very hard when you have a good conversation. And I will have you close this episode with a invitation or with an intention or with an advice, whatever you feel present to.
Okay. I just want to tell you that you can trust your desire. It is on your side. It was on your side all along. We just need to know how to be in relationship with it and how to hear it and how to follow it. And you can learn this. And when you follow your desire, well, your desire is the only organ of the psyche that knows the way to true satiation. That's what it's there for.
I heard that with my whole body. Your book, you need to do an audible because your voice, I just want to listen to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here and to add so much wisdom to this space. And for those of you that listen and watch this, doesn't matter when, just open the show notes. You find all the links And then we'll be back. We'll be back with the book, and we'll be back with more juicy, juicy conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this is where we landed. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you are feeling inspired, empowered, and just a little bit more bear. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to leave a review to let me know. For more bear experiences, go to simonaspark.com/bear and follow us on Instagram at Simona Spark World. I can't wait to have you back. Until then, be bear. Bold, authentic, radical, expressed. See you next time.